Right, we're going to begin with the Daily Mail. Josh, you have the details?
Yes, Clapham chemical attacker asylum fiasco. And this is a fiasco. This was, people remember, a few months ago, the guy, he did an acid attack in Clapham on the mum and her two daughters.
Absolutely horrific.
Horrific. Supposedly he's died in the Thames. And but then it turns out that he was a sex offender. He'd been rejected twice, his asylum claim, and then on the third time he was let through because he now said that he was a Christian.
Right, so people are going to be justifiably angry about this.
Absolutely, but there's a few things that make me even more angry. The first is that the guy who basically spoke up for him, and he failed some tests on Christianity. They basically said he had a Christianity test, and they were like, like trick questions, like was Jesus Muslim? That wasn't one of the questions, but I don't know how he would have answered.
But if you weren't a Christian, you might get that wrong.
You might. Well, he thought the Old Testament was about Jesus.
He'd probably say Jesus was Christian, but of course he was Jewish.
Yes, of course.
Actually, it is quite a hard question.
Yeah. So, anyway, the big thing is that this guy, Reverend Merrin, who was the guy who spoke up for him, and essentially was what the judge said, oh, well, I'll take this guy's word for it. Turns out they knew he was a sex offender. They knew he was wrong. At their church, they had kind of a special schedule for people to chaperone and say he wasn't around anyone that he would grope or anything like that. But what? So you think that's okay to protect your parishioners or whatever, but not the general public?
Yeah, that's absolutely outrageous. I mean, I suppose they might have been going along the line of that belief in redemption, that belief in forgiveness, and that people can change and move on.
I don't know much about Christianity.
Well, it's kind of essential to it. But you are dealing with bigger issues here. You're dealing with other people's lives, and you shouldn't really make that decision. That call.
Then the contract between. I find that a bit ludicrous anyway, to have this contract. You will behave, won't you? Yes, I will, fine. But that, as you said, that's only applicable while he's at church. That says nothing about what he's doing the rest of the time.
I mean, this is a broader problem, isn't it, Cressida? A lot of people are supposedly pretending to convert in order to secure asylum. And there's a lot of people who will tell and weave various stories in order to ensure that they get what they want when it comes to this. I'm not saying there aren't legitimate asylum claims. Of course, there are loads.
No. Well, but I'm starting to think Lewis Schaefer isn't Christian.
That would make some sense, yes. But how do you actually prove that someone hasn't converted to Christianity in this particular case? How do you do that?
Well, that's very difficult, but that's not...
I know. You've got to draw a picture of Muhammad.
Josh.
No, you've got to draw a cartoon.
Where in the Bible does it say you've got to...
But I'm just saying,
a better test would be to explain the Trinity. That would be a better...
No one can do that.
Or explain transubstantiation. Go.
I know a lot about trans issues, but that's one element.
But none of that's the point, is it? Because that's fine to let him in the church and have his behaviour agreement, and that's all great. But the point is that they used that so-called evidence of Christianity to allow him to stay, and under other circumstances he wouldn't have been allowed to stay.
And should it be the case that we have a zero policy when it comes to asylum claims? If you've committed any crime at all, actually.
Yes, of course. Why would we want people who've committed crimes? But
because you might have a top doctor who's got a parking ticket. I mean, you've got to have boundaries, haven't you?
No, we don't want a bad parking ticket doctor.
We want a doctor.
But so James Cloak, the Home Secretary, has basically been meeting with church officials to say, sort it out or stop doing it. Now, Justin Welby the other day said he was asked on a podcast something, had he seen evidence? He said, I hadn't seen any evidence of this. Well, here's the evidence. The government's seen the evidence and stop it.
Well, and historically the idea was you didn't want to send people back to dangerous situations. So it feels like the safe option is, let them stay. And this proves, no, there is no safe option. It's got to be each case on its merit.
OK, right, well...